April 12, 1945. The Rhine River. A disabled Sherman tank sits abandoned on the eastern bank, its right track blown clean off by a German Panzerfaust. The crew has evacuated. Command has written it off as a total loss, but Staff Sergeant Michael Chen refuses to leave. While other mechanics are working on tanks that can still move, Chen is staring at this wreck with an idea so crazy, so impossible, that his commanding officer will later call it either genius or insanity, and I'm still not sure which. What Chen is about to do will violate every manual, break every protocol, and use parts that technically don't exist. But within 72 hours, this broken tank will roll back into combat. Within a week, it will become the most feared Sherman in the entire 3rd Armored Division. Within a month, German soldiers will have a nickname for it, Der Geist, the Ghost, because it does things that should be impossible. This isn't a story about following the rules. This is about a mechanic who looked at a pile of scrap metal and saw opportunity. About how desperation and creativity can create something that changes everything. Between April and May 1945, Chen's broken tank will destroy more enemy armor than any other Sherman in its battalion. And when the war ends, the army will quietly dismantle it, because officially, what Chen built should never have worked at all. Welcome to Beyond the Silence. Before we dive into this incredible story, if you're fascinated by forgotten World War II stories like this one, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week, Beyond the Silence brings you the untold tales of ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Rhine River Crossing Zone, April 1945. The war is almost over, but you wouldn't know it from the fighting. German forces are making their last stand with desperate intensity. Staff Sergeant Michael Chen has been a tank mechanic since North Africa. He's seen Shermans blown apart by 88s, gutted by Panzerfausts, burned by Molotov cocktails. He's learned to repair them under fire, to keep them running with improvised parts. But he's never tried to rebuild a tank from scratch in a combat zone. Until now, the Sherman sitting on the riverbank is designated M4A3, serial number 3894179, but its crew called it Lucky. The irony isn't lost on anyone. Lucky took a Panzerfaust hit to its right side during the river crossing. The shaped charge destroyed the drive sprocket and damaged the suspension. The crew bailed out. Standard procedure says you don't repair track damage in forward positions. Too complicated, too dangerous. You mark it for recovery, and eventually a rear echelon unit hauls it back to a depot. That process takes weeks. Chen doesn't have weeks. His unit is advancing so fast that supply lines are stretched thin. And here sits Lucky, disabled but not destroyed. Its engine runs. Its gun works. Its armor is intact except for that one hit. If Chen could somehow fix the track, Lucky could fight again. The problem is, he doesn't have the parts. A proper repair would require a new drive sprocket, track links, and suspension components. The supply depot is 50 miles back, and requisitions are taking days. Chen walks around the damaged tank with 3 other mechanics, Corporal Jimmy Reeve. They're looking at Lucky as a total loss. "Sarge, I don't see how we fix this," Reeve says. "The sprocket's toast. That's a depot-level repair." Chen doesn't respond immediately. He's thinking about a knocked-out German Panther tank he'd examined weeks ago. German and American tanks use completely different systems. But the basic principles are the same, and sometimes, if you're creative enough, you can make incompatible parts work together. "What if we modify German Panther parts to fit?" Chen says suddenly. His crew stares at him like he's lost his mind. "Sarge, that's impossible," Kowalski says. "German parts don't fit American tanks." "Impossible means nobody's done it yet," Chen replies. "There's a knocked-out Panther about 2 miles back. If we can salvage its drive components and adapt them, we might get Lucky mobile again." What Chen is proposing is insane. Mixing German and American tank components violates every maintenance manual. If it fails catastrophically, it could kill whoever's inside. If command finds out, Chen could face court-martial, but their mechanics, They understand the appeal of a challenge this audacious. "All right, Sarge," Reeves says slowly. "What's the plan?" Chen sketches in the dirt. The Panther's drive sprocket is larger, but the principle is the same. "We fabricate adapter plates to mount it to Lucky's final drive housing, with modified track links too, weld extensions to match the different tooth spacing." Kowalski calculates. "That's at least 40 hours of work." What follows is 48 hours of mechanical work so intense it would give any engineer nightmares. Chen and his crew work through the night, fabricating parts from scrap metal, welding components never meant to go together. The German sprocket doesn't fit the American mounting points. Solution? Fabricate steel adapter plates, reinforced with extra welding. The German track links don't match the American pitch. Solution: modify American links with welded extensions. The German components are heavier. Solution: reinforce the mounting points with scavenged armor plate. Every fix creates new problems. Every problem requires new solutions. Chen invents mounting systems that don't exist in any manual. "This is the craziest thing I've ever been part of," Kowalski mutters at 2 in the morning. "If this works, they should put you in a textbook." "As long as they wait until after the war, I'll be happy," Chen replies. By April 14th, the modification is complete. Lucky looks almost normal, except for the slightly larger sprocket on its right side. Chen's crew is exhausted. Now comes the moment of truth. "All right, everybody, clear the area," Chen orders. "You're not testing this alone, Sarge," Reeves says firmly. "We all built this monster." The 4 mechanics climb into Lucky. The engine starts normally. Chen eases the clutch out. The tank lurches forward. There's a horrible grinding noise from the right side, metal on metal. "Come on, Lucky," Chen mutters. The grinding continues, then smooths out as the improvised system finds its rhythm. The tank is moving. Chen increases speed gradually, 5 miles per hour. "Holy hell, it actually works," Kowalski breathes. Chen drives Lucky in a circle, testing turns, stops, acceleration. Everything functions. Against all probability, it works. His crew is grinning. They've done the impossible. Captain Morrison arrives an hour later. "Sergeant Chen, how is Lucky Moby?" "Field repair, sir," Chen says carefully. Morrison walks around Lucky, noting the modifications. "Are those German components?" Chen decides honesty is best. "Yes, sir. We salvaged parts from a knocked-up Panther and adapted them." Morrison's face goes through several expressions: shock, anger, and finally grudging respect. "What you've done is either brilliant or court-martial worthy. But we're short on operational tanks." Lucky gets a combat test. "If your creation survives one engagement, I'll authorize its continued use. If it fails, you're explaining this to battalion." Lucky's combat test comes the next day. Morrison assigns Lucky to a 4-tank platoon. Chen rides along as technical advisor. Lucky's crew is Lieutenant James Parker commanding, Corporal Mike Santos driving, Sergeant Tom Rodriguez gunning, and Private Eddie Yamamoto loading. "Sarge, is this thing going to hold together?" Parker asks. "The test drives went fine, but combat is different," Chen admits honestly. "Let's find out what this thing can do," Parker says. The platoon advances toward a reported German position. The terrain is rough. Lucky keeps pace, the hybrid system performing adequately. They encounter 3 Panzerfausts supported by infantry. The German tanks open fire first. This time the Panzer IV erupts in flames, but the other German tanks have Lucky's range. A shell slams into Lucky's frontal armor. The impact throws everyone against their positions, but the armor holds. Chen checks the right side drive. Everything still looks intact. The hybrid system has survived a direct hit. Santos drives aggressively, violent maneuvering that should tear apart Chen's improvised system. But Lucky keeps fighting. Rodriguez knocks out the 2nd Panzer IV. The 3rd begins to retreat. "Santos, pursue," Parker orders. They give chase. Then Lucky hits a hidden crater, dropping hard. There's a terrible crack from the modified drive. Chen's heart stops, but Lucky keeps moving. Santos guns the engine, and the tank claws out. The hybrid system has survived an impact that should have shattered Chen's welds. They catch the fleeing Panzer. Rodriguez's shot is perfect. The German tank grinds to a halt. The platoon returns victorious. Morrison looks at the tank. What you've accomplished shouldn't be possible. Every manual says German and American components are incompatible. That's either mad genius or extreme luck. Little of both, probably, sir. Over the following weeks, Lucky becomes a legend. Word spreads about the Frankenstein tank. Chen continues maintaining Lucky personally. The hybrid system requires constant attention, but the tank remains operational, racking up an impressive combat record. Parker's crew learns to use Lucky's unique handling characteristics, making unexpected turns that confuse enemy tankers. By late April, Lucky has destroyed 6 German tanks and survived hits that would have disabled standard Shermans. German soldiers start reporting a particular American tank that seems unusually resilient. Intelligence intercepts give it a nickname, Der Geist, the Ghost. What they don't know is that Lucky's resilience partly comes from its hybrid nature. Chen's improvised engineering has accidentally made Lucky more survivable than factory-standard Shermans. On May 2, 1945, just days before Germany's surrender, Lucky participates in one of the last tank battles of the European War. Lucky engages a German Panther. The tanks trade shots at less than 200 yards. Rodriguez fires 3 times. The first bounces off. The second jams the German tank's gun. The third penetrates the side armor and ends the fight. It's Lucky's final kill. Germany surrenders 6 days later. After the surrender, officers from the Ordnance Department arrive to inspect Lucky. Sergeant Chen, what you've accomplished is remarkable, Major Robert Harrison explains. However, we can't officially endorse this. If we did, we'd encourage mechanics throughout the Army to start mixing components without proper analysis. Standardization exists for good reasons. So what happens to Lucky? Lucky will be returned to standard configuration. We'll remove your modifications and install proper American parts. You're being awarded the Bronze Star, but officially, the modifications never happened. Understood? Understood, sir. Lucky is restored to standard configuration within a week. Chen supervises, watching as his improvised hybrid system is dismantled. Lieutenant Parker comes to watch. Sergeant Chen, your crazy modification kept us alive. That hybrid system was rough and improvised, but it was brilliant. You fought the battles, Lieutenant. I just fixed the tank. You showed us what's possible when someone refuses to accept that something can't be done. Chen rotates home to California in June 1945. He returns to civilian life as a mechanic, opening a small garage in Los Angeles. But he never talks about the war. When people ask, he deflects. I was a mechanic. Fixed tanks. Nothing exciting. He doesn't mention Lucky. Decades later, in 1989, military historian Dr. Patricia Reeves is researching unusual modifications to American armor. She comes across a cryptic reference, a Sherman temporarily repaired using salvaged enemy components in April 1945. She tracks down Lieutenant Parker, now 68, retired. The Frankenstein tank, Parker says. Of course I remember. That thing saved my life at least twice. The Army made us dismantle it, acted like it never existed. But I was there. It was real. Parker gives her Chen's name. Dr. Reeves tracks him down to a retirement home in Los Angeles. Chen is 73 now. Mr. Het. Chen, I'm researching the modification you made to a Sherman in 1945. Can you tell me about it? Chen is quiet, then smiles. That was a long time ago. I wasn't sure anyone still remembered. The Army tried to bury it, but the crews remember. What you accomplished was remarkable. I proved that desperate circumstances make you creative, Chen corrects gently. I had a disabled tank and no proper parts. So I improvised. Dr. Pandy. Reeves includes Chen's story in her book on American battlefield modifications. Chen appears at a few conferences describing his wartime improvisation, but he never calls himself a genius. I was a mechanic who refused to waste a salvageable tank. The real heroes were the crews who fought. Michael Chen died in 1996. His obituary mentioned his military service. It didn't mention Lucky. Most people who knew him never learned about his wartime achievement. But in military museums, in engineering schools, in histories of World War II modifications, the story lives on. The story of how one mechanic looked at a disabled tank and refused to accept it was broken. How he combined American and German engineering in ways that shouldn't have worked, but did. How he kept an impossible tank fighting for an entire month through pure mechanical creativity. The lesson of Lucky isn't just about tanks or engineering. It's about seeing possibilities where others see only problems. About refusing to accept that something can't be done just because nobody's done it before. Staff Sergeant Michael Chen turned a broken tank into a battlefield legend, not because he had special training. He did it because he understood machines, refused to waste resources, and when everyone said it couldn't be done, he decided to try anyway. Thank you for watching this episode of Beyond the Silence. Stories like Staff Sergeant Chen's remind us that history isn't just made by generals and politicians, but by ordinary people who refuse to accept the impossible. If you enjoyed discovering this forgotten piece of World War II history, please subscribe to Beyond the Silence. Every week we bring you untold stories from the war, the heroes who were never celebrated, the moments that changed everything but were buried in classified files and fading memories. Hit that like button, leave a comment telling us what forgotten story you'd like us to uncover next, and turn on notifications so you never miss another chapter of the history they didn't teach you in school. Until next time, keep listening to the voices beyond the silence.